Alright everybody, Larry Lawton here. We got a great video here from the Old Triangle Bar. This is the bar that I first came to at 11 years old with my dad. I ended up driving him home when I was about 14, 15, when he was drinking. I would actually drive him home all the way to the Bronx. We're on Buer Avenue and Crosby and Buer, right under the L, right here. Well, here's a great story I'm going to talk about. You see that Chase Bank right over there? That was a bank. It was even a bank back then. We had a guy in here who couldn't read. So I was there, and my dad and all the old guys were messing with the guy. And this is where Vinny Tremomuno was. He had the cigar sticking out of his mouth. He was a big fat Italian guy. He had the fedora and the cigar. And we're having a blast. So I used to come, I was a little kid, I used to play pinball over there in the corner. So they sent this guy, they take a note, and they write a note, and they say, listen, you got to go over to the bank and get change. They give a note, but the note said, this is a stick-up, give us all your money. The guy couldn't read. The guy goes across, they're all out here watching, the guy goes across the street into the bank. All of a sudden, they see those cop cars flying into place, everybody in the place. They got the guy. The cops knew that these guys were fucking with him, because back then, they knew everybody. And they came over here, and they told him, stop fucking around with this guy, man. Stop doing that shit. And they didn't even arrest him, but it was crazy because that's the kind of guys that place this was. This was a bar where I first got hooked up with the Purple Gang when I was a little older, and that's how I ended up robbing cars. I met the guy, a guy from the Purple Gang, and the guy actually, he always had a paper bag. That's what I always remember about it. He always had the paper bag on it, and I looked at the paper bag, and sure enough, at one time I asked him, what's in the paper bag? And it was a gun in the bag. He always carried a gun in the bag, and he used to come to the bar right there. That's when I first was introduced or even heard about the Purple Gang. And the Purple Gang was a gang of guys who do hits, and they did their own dealings and whatever else they did, crime. It was all crime, it's all this whole area. Now this was the bar that I came to when I was very young. Actually, right there where I'm looking, there was a pinball machine. This bar was not here on this side. This bar was on the other side. There was your front door. There was your side. The bar was along the wall. And this was a pinball machine over here, a cigarette machine over there, and then in the back in the bathroom is where I made my first bet for $5, a one-time bet. It was a big deal. And this brings back memories. They called it the Triangle Bar back then. And as you can see why, it's in a triangle shape. I never even noticed that, but I did know it was on the corner, always like this, so I guess that's why they called it the Triangle Bar. And that's what this place was. So we didn't have a pool table here, but it wasn't that. It was a pinball machine, and I used to play with the bookie, Vinny. Hey kid, come here. And we had a lot of fun doing that. And that's how I was introduced to all these kind of guys, the bookies and the characters in this bar were amazing. We had a guy named Joe Steam. He was a steam fitter. They had he had Clem. Clem was the owner at the time. Yes, his name was Clem. And he owned this bar, the Triangle Bar, and they had a room up on the top there. They used to go up there and cook, they'd have like roast beef sandwiches and stuff, and they'd cook the guys. And I used to go with my dad. I was a little kid, man. He used to take me everywhere. And it was Clem, and it was Vinny, and there's Joe Steam, and the guy from the Purple Gang, and these were all, it was like, this is what you grew up with. And I'm looking back, thinking about it, it's making me smile. So these are fun times over here. This is bringing back memories. The L, the story about the guy going across the street because he couldn't read, they fucking gives him a note. Just think about that. Today you did that, fucking everybody's in jail. They've taken a little bit of fun or the life out of these guys. But, coming here, actually seeing these nice guys who own it, they're actually having fun. They're sitting there, people having a beer, drinking. It's reminding me of the old days. Obviously, they're a lot younger than me. But that's the age back then. You remember, I was 11. My dad was about 40. Whatever age he was, 41, 2, whatever it is. And they were all around that age. And they were tough guys. They were street guys. They were construction workers. They were bar owners. They were bookies. They were gangsters. And this is that's the life you live in the Bronx. And I guess my introduction into this kind of life is that. That's what my introduction. That's why, people ask you, how did you get involved? it was so easy. You're involved because that's what you grew up doing. It's not like, hey, I want to go to a course and be a gangster, or I want to go to college and study fucking gangster. No, you grew up in the streets. You learn to hustle. You learn to play cards. You learn to make money. You learned how to. Your work ethic was amazing. We didn't sleep like Tay. I don't ever remember fucking sleeping. I know a lot of you guys out there, young people. What do you sleep till fucking 11? I got fucking hammered the other night. Hammered. I got up at 8 o'clock. That's a late day for me. I'm usually up at 7:30 every morning, 6, and I go to bed at 1, 2, 3 in the morning because I do videos. But it's just that's that work ethic we had. I'm not knocking it. Hey, I wish I could fucking sleep till 11. I just can't. It's just not in me. And looking back and just being in these bars is New York. These are New York bars, I call them. And I had to show you guys the old Triangle Bar. Here we are in the entrance to Locust Point, where I grew up. Here's also where a couple other people live. Dougie Marone, who was the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, lived right around the corner. Michael Kay's house is right there. He's the announcer for the Yankees, the New York Yankees. His house is right up there. I'll talk about that. And there used to be a fence right here. There's a fence. But on the other side of that fence, there were boats. That's a boatyard in the back. So we used to play baseball. Now, right in here, we used to call it the bridge area. There was no building there. This was all a big field. And we had a baseball field coming from halfway up there, right here, and over this fence, there was a fence, was the home run. Well, we went to the Yankee game in 1970, I think 77, 78, or 77, I guess, maybe, because we were about 15 years old, 76, 77, whatever they made the new Yankee Stadium, they refurbished it. And Chris Chambers, I think the record books say wrong, the first home run hit in that new refurbished Yankee Stadium was Chris Chambers. And the reason we know is because my brother and I were on the back of the New York Post or New Daily News because they had a new scoreboard. And we were on the back because we jumped the fence between the right field bleachers and the wall, had about 10 feet, and we jumped there to get the home run that Chris Chambers hit. We ended up playing with that ball right in this field and losing it in that boatyard. So it's there somewhere maybe. To this day, it's somewhere. And little did we know what it would be worth today. But this field was where so much stuff happened. Great story is, in I don't know what year it was, again, in the mid-70s, Thurman Munson dies in a plane crash. And my brother hated the Yankees with a passion. Well, we had guys who loved the Yankees with a passion, like Michael Kay. So Michael Kay is the announcer for the Yankees, and he always loved the Yankees. He started out, he went to Fordham, and after Fordham, he worked for the Post. He actually worked for Stat City in the paper, one of the papers, the Daily News or the Post. He worked for Stat City. So we all knew how about bullshit that was. There was a bunch of reporters saying who they think would win. They don't know shit. They just put up a crap. So anyway, Michael Kay comes up, and he's crying. He's crying like a fucking baby. He fucking, Thurman Munson died, Thurman Munson died, all this. My brother goes, yeah, Carl Fisher's gonna get the MVP. Fucking, we're all cracking up, fucking laughing. We don't know Thurman Munson from a hole in the wall. People die every day. I mean, it's sad when a person dies, but I mean, do you fucking, I don't know, maybe some people do. I don't know, I don't. But it was funny as hell, because Michael Kay looked at my brother like, what the my brother was sick, he didn't give a fuck. My brother hated the Yankees so much, he wore a Boston helmet in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. We'd be fighting. We used to have to take our belts off and defend and fight, because we were down on 161st Street getting off the fucking train during a rain out, and he's fucking running around with a Boston, people throwing shit at him. We're fighting. It was fucking crazy back then. It was just a fucking crazy time. But that was the big Yankees in, when they had Billy Martin and Thurman Munson and that whole Yankee crew, that Reggie Jackson, when him and Billy Martin had to fight, and George Steinbrenner. It was big times back then. I am a Yankee fan and a New York fan. I'm a Met and Yankee fan if they're from New York, because I'm from Florida now. But I'm here. This is the entrance. This is where a lot happened. Over there, was where all the fucking crazy, we would be drinking every Friday, Saturday. We would take a vat. We'd take a big bowl, a big, you know, like a big cooking vat. We'd put a bottle of the cheapest vodka we could find, pour it in. Then we'd fucking take packets of iced tea, the powder, and take a hose, a fucking garden hose, put it in, mix it up. And we'd have vodka and fucking iced tea, fucking, we'd drink and get fucking fucked up as kids. I mean, that's what we did in this field. This field is where, we called it the field. Everybody hung out there. There was a baseball field up here, it was cool. There was a real good baseball field up near closer. That's also where they had the basketball courts where I played in my slippers. And we're gonna take a walk. I'm gonna show you Michael Kay's house was right over there. And his father used to sit on the stoop and watch us play ball all the time. His father liked us. He thought I was a crazy fuck. And his sister Debbie, and his mom was great good too. She was real nice. Mrs. K. We called them Mrs. K and Mr. K. I mean, back in those days, you didn't call somebody by their first name, period. We used to see that bus right there. When it was snowing out or icing out, we would hitch a ride. We'd catch the back of the bus with your hands, and it would slide you the whole fucking way where you're going. Of course, we fucking be all falling, and lucky we never got killed. Put under a tire. I mean, how we never get them killed, all of us kids. Here is the area that I used to shoot car windows out from my window. This is the entrance. We just passed Michael Kay's house. Now, that house is my house. Now, let me explain that house, because I have pictures from the old days. It had no deck on the back. It had no, that top was not there. It was just, see the square roof? Like this. That window was my window. See the window? Where there's an air conditioner, we didn't have an air conditioner either. And I used to take the BB gun and shoot these windows out up here. And one time, you see all these cars with cardboard on them. And the windows would be broken from a BB gun. And boy, did my father catch. We used to have a ladder that we used to drop down and sneak out of the house. We didn't grow up with money. So you worked for everything you got. You hustled for everything you got. And you learned that ethic of work or hustle. So there was no spoiled kids. None of us, none of them. From Michael Kay to Dougie Marone to me to Wayne Gurman, any of them. None of us come from money, so none of us came where we were rich people or something like that. We had a hustle, and you learn the streets. You know, if you're a street kid, you learn the games, man, and you weren't scared to work. You know, whether it was crime. See, this neighborhood is all either gangsters, construction workers, gangsters, you know, or a cop. Something like that. I mean, there was no, it was a hard working class neighborhood. And gangsters, because we had, the area was a very closed off area. So there were a bunch of gangsters. I'm gonna show you a couple of gangster houses too. I mean, we had gangsters in the neighborhood. You didn't even know who they were. They'd drive you to school. You know, they were nice guys. They had always the nice Cadillacs and all that, but the really first gangster I met was, it was a big bookie named Vinny Tremomuno, who was at the Triangle Bar. And he used to even actually write your bet down on flash paper. Flash papers, if you touch a little light to it, would just go like that. It would be gone. It's called flash paper. So in case the cops came in, but they were paid off. And I made my first bet in there at about 11 years old. My dad took me in and I did what they call a $5 bet, which was just one time. What we used to do is go in, when I made my first bet, he takes me in the bathroom like it's a big deal. What do you want, kid? Give me one time on the Giants. That was a Giant bet. One time, I think I won it too. One time on the Giants. I remember it was the Giants. Because I want to watch the game. My father gave me $5.50. You have to put the 50. Now, if you win, you get your 50 cents back. So you get $10.50 back.
Nobody in your family, your mom, your dad, nobody ever said, I want you to stay away from those guys.
No, nobody in my family ever said to anybody like, oh, you shouldn't be next to that guy. They were in it. My dad was a union guy paying them off. My mom used to take care of the gangster, the biggest gangster in this neighborhood. She used to take care of him when he was sick. She was a nurse. So, oh, he's a nice guy. Mr. Como, he's a nice guy. Oh, he's very nice. And he used to pick us up in his car. He was the nicest guy. He used to go to Westchester Square. He had an office there, and he was a big wise guy. And it was so funny because, you know, I worked for his kid, who his kid was Louis, which I worked for him with the football tickets. So, I mean, what do you mean, like, nobody cared? I mean, that's, listen, if you were in this neighborhood, everybody knew to shut your mouth, too. There was no rats back then. You know, nobody said, oh, if a cop came by, listen, I can't tell you how many times I was running from the cops. Not a fucking neighbor would tell the cop, oh, he's at that house or he's there. Not a fucking neighbor. They might slap you themselves. And if you got slapped by your neighbor, your mom's gonna slap you again, because they didn't. It wasn't like, oh, you hit my kid. They fucking, oh yeah, Mr. Como hit. Oh, you didn't want him to hit you. But anybody hit your ass, oh, what'd you do? Oh shit, and then beat you again. You know what I mean? And thank him for doing it. You know, it wasn't like it is today, or everybody's looking to sue somebody or something like that. It's just not like that. Back in those days, and I'm talking, I grew up in this. I was born in '61, so I grew up in the 70s, I mean, we're knowing things, late 60s, 70s. I was young when I was in the schools, in the 60s. But then in the 70s, I was a teenager, and I ended up going into service in 1979 at 17 years old. And I turned 18 in the service in October of 1979. I was in boot camp when I turned, and they sent me all the way to California. Petaluma, California, to go to the Coast Guard boot camp. Don't ask me why when there's a boot camp in New Jersey. It was just the way they did it back then. That's not even there anymore as well. Wow. Let's go around in front. Here's some memories. That house is where the Tarpies lived, who owned Alfie's place. My house is right up there. We're gonna go there. This is where my manager lived, Peter Maluso, right here. That's Peter's old house. Across, we used to jump these fences. We knew every fence to jump to run from the cops. So we would ditch a cab. We'd go to a place and they'd tell a cab to drop us off down here. We'd go through 3 reps. We'd be on hiding place before they know what had hit them. And they couldn't get us. They had no way they'd catch us. Ralph Pagliuca, one of my best friends, his dad was involved in the French Connection. The fucking big heroin thing in the French Connection, the movie. And they lived on the corner. And he went away for 25 or 30 years. He went to prison for his dad. He's out now, actually. This is we used to sit on these steps all day long. We used to play stoop ball. And we used to sit like right here, and everybody hang out, we'd wait. See that light up there I talked to people about? See, there's a street light. You had to be home when that street light came on. If you weren't home when that street light came on. Now, we used to play baseball, we used to play football, Billy, from that telephone pole to this telephone pole, look. And you see the sewer? That was the 50-yard line. And we would play we'd knock you into a mirror of a car. We didn't care. I mean, we played, I'm telling you, this is where Michael Kay, Dougie Marone, we all played right here. This was like a central hub right here. It was just great. Running I ended up getting a dirt bike, running from the cops, getting it in the garage, you know, coming down. We used to go through that shit. They could never find us, you know, at the end of the block, so they would never find us. So this was just all our area right here. It was just, you know, this whole area.